Russia continues its invasion of Ukraine. Fire breaks out in Europe's largest nuclear power plant. We'll have the latest in our continuing coverage. And we are on the ground as residents of Lviv are preparing for the possibility Russia's invasion spreads westward.
The goal is to erect the steel barriers to stop Russian tanks from advancing on the city.
All these stories and more coming up next from the CBN Newsroom.
This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ephraim Graham. We begin this half hour with the war in Europe. Russian forces have captured Ukraine's largest nuclear power plant. A fire broke out after Kremlin troops shelled the plant in the dark of night, raising fears of a nuclear disaster that could affect Europe for decades. The fire was put out and the reactor was not damaged. But some of the Ukrainian troops defending the plant were killed in the siege. The fighting remains intense throughout many southern cities along the coast. After talking to Vladimir Putin on the phone, the president of France said he believes the worst is yet to come. The ministers of NATO met for an emergency meeting in Brussels today, hoping to find a solution to the mounting crisis.
Every ally, in one way or another, is helping to strengthen NATO itself. And as the Secretary General said, ours is a defensive alliance. We seek no conflict. But if conflict comes to us, we're ready for it. And we will defend every inch of NATO territory.
Meanwhile, residents of Lviv are on war footing, anticipating Russia's military operations could spread westward. Our senior international correspondent George Thomas is on the ground there and brings us this report.
It's the sounds and sights of a city that's on a war footing.
We have food, we have medicines, we have all kinds of different things, and we sort them into categories here.
At Lviv's historic art palace, now a massive aid hub, hundreds of volunteers use every inch of this 32,000 square foot structure to store critical supplies that fleeing refugees and military personnel might need in the days ahead.
We are all united, and now everyone is helping, and we're doing everything we can.
In one corner, food. In another, clothes, sleeping bags and blankets. Here, medical supplies and toiletry. And in this spot, sacks of potatoes. Lviv has been a safe zone since Russia's invasion. Tens of thousands of people are pouring in by the day, and residents are stepping up to help.
And now the most awful thing is that we are getting accustomed to them, to all this situation. First days, all these first waves of shock, it's like settling down, and now this is the reality, and this is just the job we must do.
Yet there's a sense of urgency here. You feel it. You see it. On the streets, Ukraine's National Guard is out in force. At sensitive locations like police stations, hospitals, and government buildings, security has been beefed up. If the Russians were to move on Lviv, one of their first targets is going to be City Hall, right here in the heart of Lviv. And so already authorities have put up the sandbags and erected these concrete barriers just in case. CBN News filmed as military instructors were teaching civilians how to handle weapons and man checkpoints. Ruslan Shenitsky is playing his part as well, cutting large pieces of metal.
The goal is to erect the steel barriers to stop Russian tanks from advancing on the city.
These are the prepared Molotov cocktails, and they are actually ready for use. And these bottles, they are prepared to be transported because they are covered here.
They have a seal on them.
Yeah.
Taras Masalko does public relations for one of Ukraine's largest breweries.
So basically to fill up the bottles and use them to put gasoline and all the stuff that's needed.
The company has ditched beers for producing petrol bombs to set fire to any invading Russian army.
We need to be prepared, and we need to be sure that we can normally defend our houses and our cities.
Back at the Art Palace, volunteers work around the clock. This is the largest humanitarian center with 8 others scattered around the city.
People are really exhausted. They're coming and they're saying, okay, I can stay for like 5 hours, but they're working for 12 hours.
George Thomas joins us now. George, what's the latest that you can tell us on the nuclear facility?
Yeah, Ephraim, if you thought that things couldn't get any crazier today in this country, the Ukrainian government is now saying officially that Russia is in full control of Ukraine's nuclear facility. By the way, it is the largest nuclear facility in the entire European continent. Overnight, there was intense gunfire and shelling around the nuclear facility. The head of the atomic agency, the IAEA, said a Russian projectile hit one of the administrative buildings. None of the 6 nuclear reactors were in any kind of threat. But again, just a sense of like, this is, can things get any crazier? But today, right now, Russia controls the continent's biggest nuclear facility.
There's also been reporting around Kyiv that it's come under intense bombardment. What are you hearing?
Yeah, you know, you look at the towns, if you look at a map of Kyiv, just go to Google, go to the north, go to the northwest, northeast, and basically cities like Irpin, which I have been to many times. My goodness, it's unrecognizable. High-rise buildings completely decimated, obliterated. The same thing in the northwest, northeast parts of the city. In essence, everywhere that Russia is in control, their forces are in control. You see the bombardment. Similar situation you're seeing from down in the south in Kherson. And right now, all eyes are on Mariupol, the strategic port city that lies to the southeast of the country. An intense bombardment, relentless for the last 2 days. The electricity is cut off. The water supply is out. There's no heat, no internet connection. It's a desperate situation. And I've got deep contacts in Mariupol, and they are taking shelter. They have been for the last 24 hours.
Can imagine. Russia's parliament passed a controversial law that will imprison people for 15 years. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the heavy hand of the Kremlin is coming down on the poor people of Russia. Today, the lower house of the Duma, the equivalent of Congress or Parliament, passes controversial law. Basically, in essence, it says that you can't propagate fake news. And guess what? To them is fake news. For example, they cannot, no Russian person can use the word that Russia has launched a war against Ukraine. The word war can get you in prison for up to 15 years. Also, if any Russian were to publicly say that the country needs to be put under sanctions, that can also land you behind bars as well. There is some rumors that martial law could come to Russia, and there are reports today that Russians are trying to get out of the country either by land, by sea, or by plane.
All right, George, you shared a story on Twitter that more than 300 Russian pastors and other evangelical leaders have signed an open letter calling for an end to the war. What more can you tell us about that?
Yeah, some of this came from after their counterparts here in Ukraine. Evangelical believers said, listen, to the church in Russia, they said to their brothers and sisters across the border, guys, why are you not saying anything? Why are you silent? Your silence is deafening. It's killing us. And so evangelical leaders in Russia, both pastors as well as key leaders, signed an open letter, in essence, calling on the government, calling on Kremlin to end this, that this was a horrible situation, and that this needs to come to a swift end. We need to pray for those who have put their names to this particular letter. I was talking to a pastor, a Moscow-based pastor, yesterday evening, and I asked him, "Why did you sign this?" He said, "When one part of the body," I'm paraphrasing from, he said, "when one part of the body suffers, the entire body suffers." And he says, today, the Ukrainian body of Christ is suffering, and I need to stand with them. And so he put his name to this letter.
All right, George Thomas reporting for us from Lviv, Ukraine. Thank you so much, George. I want to remind you and let you know this weekend there will be a prayer event happening with George and a Ukrainian pastor. It's happening Saturday, March 5th at 11 a.m. That is Eastern Standard Time. If you'd like to participate, you do need to sign up. You can do that by going to cbn.com/pray for Ukraine. Now to some other news right here at home. Skyrocketing inflation has more Americans turning to dollar stores to buy the basics. The tough economic climate is forcing those businesses, though, to change some of their policies in order to stay viable. Mark Martin takes a look at what this means to consumers.
When Aisha Williams made a trip to Dollar Tree, she was in for a surprise.
I was a little shocked at first when I went in for the first time, and it was like, oh my gosh, 25, I was expecting $1, so I was really thrown off by it.
The Virginia resident now plans to shop at Dollar Tree less often due to the increase to $1.25.
Actually, I went into the store and bought something, and it rang up as $1.25, and I asked him about that.
Lee Dean feels the increase makes sense in light of supply issues and the pandemic, and also sees the flip side.
I also feel like it's probably a lot for people who are relying on Dollar Tree and dollar stores for, a lot of their food and whatever. I mean, it's 25% higher, so that could probably hurt a lot of people.
Dollar Tree issued a statement about the increase, saying it was the right time to make the move in order to continue offering extreme value to customers. The company called the decision permanent and said it wasn't a reaction to temporary or short-term market conditions. CEO Michael Witynski added Dollar Tree pricing tests showed broad consumer acceptance of the price increase.
It's not going to turn me away from coming in. Like I said, it depends on what you buy. Stuff's still a good deal. You just got to be a smart shopper.
It's very sensible to do that. I mean, every other industry has raised prices. Food services, automobile industry. That's part of life in the United States.
Still, industry tracker Coresight Research found Dollar Tree experienced a meaningful decline in shoppers after the price increase during a check around the Christmas holidays. As for competitor Dollar General, the discount store says 20% of its merchandise goes for $1 or less. Mark Martin, CBN News.
Coming up, we're going to show you how some Christian organizations are working with Israel to help Jews looking to escape this war. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Israel is working with Christian organizations to help Jews trying to escape Russia's invasion of Ukraine. CBN News Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl has more on this story.
Israel is scrambling here and in Europe to pave the way for thousands of Ukrainian Jews to immigrate to Israel.
We are in touch with different communities and leaders of these communities, rabbis. We helping them to organize buses to the border, and then in the border we meet these buses and we help them to cross this border to accommodate them in these neighboring countries.
Ukrainian-born Roman Polanski, a regional director with the Jewish Agency, faces a chaotic task.
The situation in Ukraine is the men ages 18, 60, they cannot leave the country because they're drafted to the army. And it creates a situation when the family could be split and they have to make their choice. Wife with children and with elderly parents can go beyond the border, but men should stay there.
Complicating the effort is that many people didn't bring family documents and some don't have passports, although the Jewish Agency has been able to mitigate some of the challenges.
These people come sometimes with only 2 bags and with cat or dogs, and they need everything. They need clothes, they need medicine, they need food. We are trying to provide them with all our help, including, by the way, also psychological help and medicine help.
Working with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews, the agency has established centers near borders in Poland, Romania, Hungary, and Moldova.
Christians all around the world who help us, different organizations, both financially, but also they have their people in the field, in Ukraine and in other countries, and we rely on this chain of support as well.
Author Tom Hess is most concerned about those not returning to Israel.
There's 200,000 Jews there. I believe that God has shown that the destiny for the Jewish people is back in Israel.
In his well-known book, Let My People Go, Hess issues a clarion call to Jews and Christians alike about the importance of Jewish people returning home.
God says the destiny of the Jewish people is back in Israel in the last days. Half the Jews in the world are already back, but he says he's going to bring them all back, not leaving any behind.
Given the rush right now to rescue those in Ukraine, much work and uncertainty lie ahead. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Jerusalem.
And you can see more news from the Middle East with Chris Mitchell and the entire Middle East Bureau team by checking out Jerusalem Dateline on the CBN News Channel. You can watch it at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. You can also download the CBN News app and watch it on demand. Still ahead, the Chinese have become the dominant trading partner in Latin America. Find out what that means for us here in the United States when we come back.
Christians around the world are standing with the Israelis. But why? In CBN's free magazine, Friends of Israel, you'll discover why Christians are supporting the Jewish state, how Israel is fulfilling prophecy as a light to the nations, and ways you can pray for the people of Israel. Israel needs the support of friends like you. Call now or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Friends of Israel.
Heavenly Father, we do thank you for the work of your Spirit, Lord God, with this movement of getting the Bible,
yes,
Lord, into public schools.
Watch The Prayer Link. Tuesday morning at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
For the past 20 years, a strategic threat has been growing in our own backyard. While the United States was focused on other parts of the world, China worked its way into South America to become a leading trade partner on the continent. In addition, more socialist leaders are coming to power, shifting the region in an anti-American direction. Dale Hurd explains how the United States' influence is fading in our southern hemisphere.
A Chinese TV show teaches the latest Latin dance moves. The Chinese have a new interest in all things Latin American these days because China is now the dominant power in the region. This shows the extent of China's trade dominance in South America in 2000. Compare that to what it is today. And China is well on its way to becoming the dominant trading partner in all of Latin America. Latin American officials are warning that the U.S. is losing the region to China without a fight.
It is a big problem, and it's a problem that's getting worse.
Dr. Evan Ellis is a Latin American expert at the U.S. Army War College.
For China, in Latin America, like most other parts of the world, it's mostly economic, but that doesn't make it any the less strategic either for the United States or the region.
20 Latin American nations have joined China's Belt and Road Initiative, in which China invests in a nation's infrastructure, like this container port China is building for Peru. China will also be supplying nations with civilian nuclear technology, helping them develop space programs, and providing them with Chinese 5G technology that experts warn is a surveillance tool of the Chinese military. Several nations have received Chinese loans. Ecuador is so deep in debt to the communist government, it's asked Beijing to renegotiate the terms.
They orchestrate those loans and those contracts in ways to make sure that they get paid. And Chinese banks oftentimes operate more as loan sharks. In other words, give me the title to your car, so to speak.
In addition to making money, China expands its political influence. Taiwan used to be the dominant Asian trading partner in Latin America. Now, most of the nations in the region have flipped their allegiance to communist China. At the same time, a leftist populist wave is sweeping through Latin American politics. Most of the governments now range from center-left to Marxist, with Brazil and Colombia both at risk of also falling to the left in coming elections.
Were that to happen, you would essentially have the entirety of Latin America in the hands of not just leftists, not just socialists, but really radicals and communists in quite a number of cases.
China is also establishing a growing number of Confucius institutes in the region, school programs that teach young people Chinese language and culture and push Chinese government propaganda. Ellis says China is also cultivating military ties here, which it could use in any future conflict with the United States.
So, for example, if war ever broke out over Taiwan, they would probably not make it a war that was fought just in Asia. It's entirely possible that there would be certain anti-U.S. states in the region that might welcome China in.
The White House claims it can win back the region with its Build Back Better World initiative. What the U.S. cannot do, says Ellis, is tell Latin American nations who they can and cannot trade with.
The United States doesn't have a lot of great options. It's very difficult for us to try to block sovereign nations from realizing commerce with another power. It only creates resentment. It's very difficult for the United States to provide alternatives to massive amounts of Chinese aid and investment.
But the U.S. has to do something because America faces a new strategic threat in this hemisphere.
We need to be acting on the principle that what happens in our hemisphere is of vital interest to our country. It's not just our backyard, I would argue it's our front yard.
Dale Hurd, CBN News.
We'll be right back with your Friday Faithful right after this.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living Tuesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
A few days ago, U.S. Army soldiers assigned to the 1st Armored Brigade Combat Team 3rd Infantry Division deployed to the U.S. Army Europe and Africa area of operations. The soldiers are from Hunter Army in Airfield, Georgia, and are in Germany to reassure NATO allies, deter Russian aggression, and to be prepared to support a range of other requirements in the region. It is time now for your Friday Faithful. Today, I want to leave you with this word. Consider this the next time you feel hurt by someone you trusted. People can be a blessing or a lesson. Don't waste too much time being troubled by their disappointments to you. Learn the lesson and count your blessings. With that word, I encourage you to make this a fabulous Friday and be sure to have yourself a wonderful weekend. That's going to do it for this edition of CBN NewsWatch. I want to remind you, you can always find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about any of the stories you've seen here today. You can email us. The address is right there at the bottom of your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. And of course, you can always reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. We look forward to seeing you right back here come Monday. Goodbye, everybody, and God bless you.